with news from across the Federation, spanning the region and covering the globe. This is the KyssFM SKN News Now Evening Edition, your one true source for news. And now your presenter.
Good evening, I'm Kinney James. Today is Thursday, 8th March 2018. This is the SKN News Now Evening Edition. In the headlines tonight, nationally, the Department of Gender Affairs is calling on political parties to call up more female candidates. Internationally, Donald Trump's tariffs plan is triggering global backlash. And in sports, Australia's David Warner says vile and disgusting remarks prompted his altercation with South Africa's Quinton de Kock. We have the details of these stories, the weather and Carib update all ahead in the SKN News Now Evening Edition. Nationally, as St. Kitts and Nevis joins the rest of the world in celebrating International Women's Day today under the theme Press for Progress, Acting Director in the Department of Gender Affairs, Celia Christopher, is advocating for more women across the Federation to actively pursue paths which will place them in top leadership positions. While all professions are equally worthy, Mrs. Christopher says a greater female representation in the National Assembly is imperative, as this is where the policies which impact the entire nation are made. At present, there is only one elected female member of the National Assembly, Honorable Marcella Liebert, and two appointed senators, Wendy Phipps and Akila Byron Nisbet.
Women must also be empowered to participate in every area of career development, be it in education, science and technology, agriculture, construction, finance, private sector leadership, healthcare, and Parliament. Parliament in particularly, where we now represent 20% of the membership. But we want much more than that. We want more women in Parliament where the important decisions are made. So I would like to see all political parties include women in this slate of candidates. We really want to get to 30% of women in Parliament. Women should also be empowered and aspire to participate in leadership at the regional and international level.
As this year's Women's Day activities aim to draw focus on improving gender parity, Mrs. Christopher went on that it is crucial for more women to be included by their parties as political candidates, as often parties' female supporters are the driving force behind these institutions.
We have been asking political parties for some time now to include women in the slates of candidates whenever there is an election. You have to, they're in the party, they're there already. They do a lot of work in there. So it's just simply to move them up into where the decision making process is. We can't just have them just there doing work. Yes. We need them at the table. We need to hear them. We need the voices to be heard.
The steady progress of the Federation's women folk over the years have come to a complete halt. This is the position being taken by Honorable Marcella Liebert in comments she's made on the observance of this year's International Women's Day today, March 8th, 2018. The SKNLP's Honorable Liebert, the lone elected female in the federal parliament, said there has been an erosion of the progress of women in St. Kitts and Nevis over the last 3 years. Ms. Liebert asserts that prior to the 2015 federal elections, women across the country were making far greater progress in all aspects of their lives.
That the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party will make an even greater investment in our women, because we realize that that is the only way that the country will be able to progress wholesomely. And so we will invest more in our women. We will press for progress in women's safety. We will press for progress in women's leadership. We will press for progress in closing the wage gap between men and women, and we'll press for progress in the empowerment of our girls and women. So I want you to join us to reverse this period of attack on our women and our families. Happy International Women's Day tomorrow when it comes.
In other news, Jenkins Limited Leadership Course has successfully marked its 5th anniversary and is gearing up to celebrate the occasion. Starting on the weekend, stakeholders will participate in a number of activities in recognition of the course's achievements and milestones. This Sunday, March 11th, the activities commence with a service at the Wesley Methodist Church, Bastia, where past and present participants and well-wishers will gather with the congregation for worship. Later in the week, on Thursday, March 15th, a public lecture will be staged at the Old Boys School at 7 p.m. The lecture will be facilitated by Dr. Aubrey Armstrong, an internationally recognized business consultant, who will address the topic, A Conversation on Leadership in Caribbean Development, a Celebration. The activities will end with a retreat symposium on Saturday, March 17th at the University of Medicine and Health Sciences for former and current participants in the course. Over the past 5 years, the previous cohorts completed community projects as a means of building camaraderie and as a part of their civic duty. The course has also provided the opportunity for participants to become sensitized of the contribution of over 30 of the nation's iconic leaders, all of whom have been pioneer in the development of the Federation in various areas. Each cohort has also successfully completed a business project, with the proceeds being donated to various local charities. The William Marcus Natter Memorial Scholarship Fund announced earlier today that it is now accepting scholarship applications from 5th and 6th grade students at the Tucker Clark and Irish Town primary schools. These scholarships have been instrumental over several years in assisting with the school-related expenses of scores of children. The fund will select 2 students from each school who have demonstrated civic involvement and financial need. The William Marcus Natter Memorial Scholarship Fund was established in memory of William Marcus Natter, a former Army sergeant and trade unionist who worked diligently within his community and promoted high academic achievement among his family and community. Students with good moral character, a strong academic record, and interest in the community are encouraged to apply by May 1st, 2018. Applications should be sent to the William Marcus Natter Memorial Scholarship Fund, P.O. Box 2242, Bastia, St. Kitts. Additional information and application materials can be found on the fund's website, www.natterschoolscholarshipfund.org. Applications can also be obtained from the Tucker Clark and Irish Town primary school offices. Our family in Nevis is mourning the untimely death of a young man who was involved in a traffic accident earlier this week. On Tuesday, 6 March, Shaquille Dayson, 22 years old, of Rollins Village, Nevis, died after losing control of the scooter he was riding and colliding with a building in Chickenstone, Gingerland, Nevis. Reportedly, upon colliding with the building, he was thrown some distance from the scooter. The rented motor scooter bore the plate RA356. Dayson was transported to the Alexandra Hospital, where he later succumbed to his injuries. His tragic passing comes as 14 firefighters look to complete road traffic collision training to build their life-saving skills. The training involves theoretical and practical training sessions in personal safety, equipment familiarization and care, the team approach, stability, glass management, supplementary restraint systems, vehicle hazards and risk, as well as immobilization and extrication. Today, the participants were given a written evaluation and an extrication exercise. Tomorrow, the final day of training, the fire officers will take part in a simulation exercise. Fire Sub-Officer Daniel Archibald and Fire Officer Desmond DeLashley are facilitating the training, which began on Monday at the Police Training Complex. And finally tonight, 2 of the 3 persons involved in 2 wounding incidents that occurred in Frigate Bay recently have been charged. Frank Joseph of New Road Housing was charged for the offense of inflicting grievous bodily harm, while Shaquille Jeffers of Ponds Pasture was charged of the offense for wounding with intent. They were both charged on Saturday, 2nd March 2018. Frank Joseph has since received bail in the sum of $10,000 with 2 sureties and is to appear before the Basseterre Magistrate Court on 9th April. He was bailed on the condition that he stays 100 feet away from the virtual complainant and 20 feet away from his home. He is also to have no contact with the virtual complainant. On 23rd February, police responded to 2 reports involving 3 individuals, 2 of which were injured in one report. Investigations revealed that Kajil Joseph was at work at a business place in Frigate Bay when he had an argument with Shaquille Jeffers, who then stabbed him with a knife several times about the body. Joseph was taken to the JNF General Hospital for treatment. Another report was filed not long after on the same day, stemming from the incident earlier. Investigations revealed that Shaquille Jeffers was subsequently beaten with a hammer and stabbed several times about the body by another worker at the same establishment. That employee has since been identified as Frank Joseph Jeffers, who was also taken to the JNF hospital for treatment. Stay with us. SKN News Now continues in just a moment with today's top international developments. Internationally, U.S. President Donald Trump has refused to back down on his plan to impose new tariffs on steel imports. He is due to sign off on the measure by the end of the week. Several countries have threatened to retaliate, warning the move could start a global trade war. Kimberly Halkett reports.
The U.S. stock market did not respond well to news Donald Trump's top economic advisor is leaving. It opened rattled over fears of losing Gary Cohn's moderating influence in the White House. Cohn was the chief architect of Trump's business-friendly tax cuts, but investors are nervous about the president's protectionist tariffs planned for foreign aluminum and steel. At a meeting of the World Trade Organization, America's trade partners expressed displeasure. The European Union has also announced plans to retaliate with tariffs on products like American tobacco and orange juice if Trump follows through with his threats.
If it does happen, we will have to take measures to protect European jobs and workers.
Thank you very much.
At a White House press conference on Tuesday with Sweden's Prime Minister, Trump was undeterred and lashed back at the EU threats.
The European Union has been particularly tough on the United States. They make it almost impossible for us to do business with them, and yet they send their cars and everything else back into the United States. And they can do whatever they'd like, but if they do that, then we put a big tax of 25% on their cars, and believe me, they won't be doing it very long.
The position of Trump's Commerce Secretary, who clashed with Cohn, trade policies with the EU are out of date. Concessions made to rebuild a post-war Europe don't make sense in the context of a strong, modern European economy.
Concessions that were perfectly reasonable to make to Germany in 1945 or China in 1945 don't make sense anymore. Those are now very mature, big, strong economies.
On Wednesday on social media, Trump continued to deflect fears of a global trade war, arguing the U.S. has lost more than 55,000 factories, 6 million manufacturing jobs, and accumulated trade deficits of more than $12 trillion. The White House says Donald Trump will make his announcement on steel and aluminum tariffs official by the end of the week, just in time for a planned visit this weekend to the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. It is a key steel manufacturing state Trump won in 2016, and that Republicans need to win again in this year's congressional elections. Kimberly Halkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
British police say a rear nerve agent was used to try and murder a former Russian double agent and his daughter. Sergei and Yulia Skripal remain critically ill in hospital after they were found slumped on a bench in southern England on Sunday. Sonia Gallego reports.
A small city thrust into the global spotlight. No one could have guessed that Salisbury in southern England would be at the centre of the attempted assassination of a former Russian spy and his daughter. Anything unusual is treated with caution as investigators trace all known movements of the victims.
there was probably at least 40 people, firemen, stood outside. They've cordoned off the front of the roller shutter doors where the ambulance come out from and the door to go in. Not sure what they were getting out, but they were had all these like buckets. There was 4 guys dressed up in hazmats and going inside and retrieving stuff in these boxes and putting them outside in the cornered area. And and that's all. They didn't tell us anything.
These images show the former Russian military intelligence colonel just days ago buying sausages and lottery scratch cards from a shop close to his home. Investigators are also looking into the deaths of Skripal's family members. His wife, Lyudmila, passed away in 2012 of cancer. His son, Alexander, died while on a trip in St. Petersburg last year, ostensibly of liver failure. The fast-moving investigation has indicated that both Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were attacked with a nerve agent. No detail as to which one, but they are highly toxic.
In summary, this is being treated as a major incident involving attempted murder by administration of a nerve agent. As you know, these 2 people remain critically ill in hospital. Sadly, in addition, a police officer who was one of the first to attend the scene and respond to the incident is now also in a serious condition in hospital.
Investigators have urged for an open mind as to who was behind this attack in Salisbury. But already there have been murmuring accusations pointed towards Moscow. And if indeed it is proven that this was a state-sponsored attack, then that would have deep diplomatic consequences. The Russian government has denied any involvement, but the incident bears striking similarities to the 2006 death of Russian dissident Alexander Litvinenko, who was poisoned by radioactive material. Police are refusing to reveal further details in this case, but suspicions persist as to who's to blame.
Still to come this evening, sport, the weather, and Carib update. Australia Vice Captain David Warner says that vile and disgusting remarks about his wife prompted his altercation with South Africa's Quinton de Kock. The International Cricket Council (ICC) fined both players for the incident during the first test in Durban. Warner was fined 75% of his match fee by the ICC on Wednesday and given 3 demerit points after video footage appeared to show him being restrained by teammates during a row with the South African wicketkeeper. The row took place on a stairwell as players returned to their dressing rooms at tea of the 4th day. De Kock was fined 25% of his match fee by the ICC, which issued him with 1 demerit point. I would have liked him to actually say the comment a little bit louder instead of just muttering it under his breath next to me and wicketkeeper Tim Payne, and then walking up the stairs and saying, "I didn't say anything," as soon as the rest of the team came out, Warner added. At the end of the day, we are all men, and if you're going to say something, you look at someone in the eye and say it. Warner, who is clear to play in the second test, said he did not intend to get physical with de Kock. However, his comments are likely to be seen as inflammatory by South Africa, who were unhappy with the 31-year-old for his behavior towards their opening batsman. Aidan Markman followed the dismissal of Abdi Villiers. Under the ICC News point system, another transgression by Warner in the next 2 years could see him suspended for a test. Australia leads the 4-match series 1-0 after victory in Durban. The second test starts on Friday at St. George's Park in Port Elizabeth. And now we take a look at this evening's weather forecast. A dry and stable air mass associated with a surface high-pressure ridge will continue to suppress shower activity across the area during the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, the Atlantic upper-level low will continue to support high sea swells along coastal areas during that time. Tonight will be mostly fair skies, while tomorrow is expected to be partly sunny skies in general. Winds are east-northeast at 10 to 16 miles per hour with lighter spells overnight. Seas are rough with swells of 2.1 to 3.1 meters or 7 to 10 feet. Warnings remain in place for small craft operators and sea bathers against hazardous sea conditions. Today's max temperature was 28 degrees Celsius or 83 degrees Fahrenheit. The sea level pressure is 1017.2 millibars or 30.03 parts of an inch. Rainfall for the month of March stands at 0.1 millimeters or 0.012 inch. Sunrise tomorrow is at 6:25 a.m. The sun will set tomorrow at 6:19 p.m. That ends tonight's edition of the SKN News Now. Now for a recap of our top stories. Nationally, the Department of Gender Affairs is calling on political parties to call up more female candidates. Internationally, Donald Trump's tariffs plan is triggering global backlash. And in sports, Australia's David Warner says vile and disgusting remarks prompted his altercation with South Africa's Quinton de Kock. Stay tuned. Up next, Carib Update.